Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Wednesday, the 9th of October, and this is an early edition since I will be traveling today and the next few weeks. So meaning I will do some quite early updates. I hope you're okay with that. And today we will have a look at Nvidia again, that closed above 130 yesterday. RSI in a positive sentiment. We are likely to test previous all-time highs here in about a week or so. Interesting though is that the semiconductor ETF/index is not really following that much. It's lacking a little bit, and that is because a lot of the other semiconductors, they are struggling a little bit. Nvidia is not the only one that has had a good days, but some of the others struggling. So let's see. I think we could see the SOXX index testing 237.5 here, maybe in a couple of days. If it does close above that, well, then it will be pushing higher. We are still in a positive sentiment on the RSI, so it should be pushing higher here fairly shortly. The S&P 500 also had a good day yesterday, and as long as it stays above 5,674, I think we will see it testing 5,800, possibly higher here in the coming days. Nasdaq 100 closed above 20,041. So in this gap area here, I think it will push higher to test this resistance here around 20,211, 20,273, which is the previous little peak there, and then we could see a test of previous all-time highs that could also be tested in the coming weeks. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, and as long as we stay above 19,622, I think we will see it pushing higher here in the coming week or so. The EUROSTOXX 50 managed to close after starting the day fairly negative. We managed to close just above 49.43, as we can see here, 49.43.5. Actually closed just above it, and I think it will see a little bit of a bounce here. Excuse me, a little bit of a bounce here the next couple of days. If it takes out 49.86, which is not unlikely, then I think we'll see the STOXX 50 pushing towards the 5,070-80 level. On the DAX index, also had a fairly good day yesterday, back above 19,000. If it takes out that little peak here, let's just draw a little bit of a trend line so we can remind ourselves. 19,172, just round it up a little bit. If it takes out that, then I think we'll see the DAX index pushing higher and also above 19,500, which is quite possible. There's a little bit divergence on the RSI, but it can be cancelled out. And if we get the RSI to close back about 60 threshold, I think it will be challenged, and we will see DAX pushing towards the peak there. The AX Amsterdam actually also closed above 909 support resistance. So we could see it push higher. Key here is, can we get the RSI to close above 60 threshold, and that it seems to be a little bit of a struggling thing for the AX Amsterdam. So, but that's something to keep an eye on. The CAC 40 still holding on above 74.64, which is key. If it can do that, start crawling higher above the 100 moving average, then maybe it can push back towards the 77.25. But 74.64 is key to hold that support. If it doesn't, well, then we could see 7300. The Swiss market, well, very close to test the 11,875 support and then bounce. And now we could see it maybe testing the little resistance. It's not strong resistance, but it's resistance here at 12,190, 120 level. Key strong up there at 12,250. Euro dollar, well, it's still holding on above the 109.40 as support level. As we can see here, it's also the 786 retracement and the other uptrend here. However, if it takes it out, if we're seeing a break, and I think then we will see it pushing lower towards 108.80. their RSI is in negative sentiment, so it's not unlikely it could occur. At least this is supportive, but if we can get the euro dollar cross to move back above 110, then maybe we could see a bounce up to 110.50, maybe even 110.80. And if we get up in this region here, then I think we'll see uptrend to resume on euro dollar. So really key to look out for 109.40 support. Euro sterling tried to get back up again after being hammered down the other day, but got sent back down again below 84, just touched the 61.8 here, just above 84 level. I think we could see it being range bound in this range here between 83.5, 84 and a change. It really needs to break either above this spike here, 84.35, or it needs to break back below 83.40 for downtrend to resume. Cable hovering around the 786 retracement right there, and the just above the 55 moving average, and the cloud giving some support. RSI is still positive, but we had this divergence. We would like to have been traded out. If it does that and we move back below 40, then it's kind of reset. But support at 130 could be tested. But if we see cable slowly drifting higher or sliding higher here, then I think we'll see 132.65 being tested once again, which is now a resistance. So we're at a little bit of a crossroad there for cable. Dollar yen, well, it's a bit of a limbo at the moment. What I would actually do, I will add a Fibonacci and I'll put it right there. So I think we could see a little bit of a setback, possibly below the 147.20 support, down to 146.28, maybe a little bit lower. But key resistance 149.40 is the one that needs to be broken for upside push. RSI is actually indicating that it will push higher with the RSI currently above 60 threshold, no divergence, meaning we are in a positive sensing supporting higher levels, but it could be a struggle. If it can push above that, well, then we are looking at 151.85 around that level, where we have the 100 coming down, the 100 moving average, and the 200 slightly rising, virtually flat. That will give some resistance up here. The Euro yen, well, can't really make its mind up, can it? Still negative sentiment on the RSI. It didn't close above 60 threshold, indicating we're still in a negative sentiment. It really needs to close above 164, and I think 163.50 above that will actually do it, and then we'll see it pushing higher, probably also taking out 164 towards 165.50 if that occurs. If it takes out 161 to the downside, then expect the bearish trend to resume. The Aussie yen has really been struggling penetrating the 100 moving average, 101.78 resistance right there. If it takes out 98 to the downside, then downtrend is likely to resume. Sterling yen, more or less the same picture, 196, it needs to take out to the upside, and down here it's 189.55, and it's a big range, I know, but I think if it takes out, and let's do that, and if it takes out that level there, 191.70, then that support here at 189.55 will be tested and most likely taken out. But above 196, well, it gives room up to 199.5, maybe 200. Aussie dollar still pushing lower, and we talked about it yesterday that it could drop down to the 786 retracement at 67. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. We could also see the RSI dipping below 40 threshold, or even it's going to be interesting, will it bounce off, and then if it does, well, then we could see Aussie dollar. I think Aussie dollar will bounce from 67 if we get down there, and then it will slowly try to move back higher. I think this level will hold, but even if it's dipping just below 67, I wouldn't be too worried, but because we have the 55 coming up and the 100 moving average coming up, giving a little bit of a support. The dollar Canada, it is now currently trading above the the 136.50 resistance level. As we speak, the RSI is above 60, actually closed above 60 threshold yesterday, meaning we are in a positive sentiment. I think we could see it pushing towards 137, but then I also think we could see a little bit of a setback, and this could actually be a double bottom like pattern here, and that will give potential up to 138 around that level in the coming weeks, but there will be some setbacks. As we can see, the 100 moving average slightly declining still, and the 51 declining, dragging on it a little bit, but the 200 supporting this uptrend here. So there's a little bit conflict, but the RSI is indicating higher levels. Sterling Canada, well, currently testing the rising trend line there, and I think it could close above. If it breaks back above here, well, then we are likely to see the uptrend resuming. Key support 176.80 that should be observed. If it takes out that, well, then bearish trend is likely to be established. Euros Swiss still in this range trading behavior here, needs to break out this triangle-like pattern, and especially above 95 for any meaningful direction. Dollar Swiss, well, dollar Swiss is struggling a little bit. We need to move this a little bit so we can see what's actually going on. If it takes out 86 and a change, 86.010, I would say 86.10, well, then we are likely to see RSI pushing above 60 threshold, and then we could see the dollar Swiss move to the 786 retracement at 86.68, possibly above 87.30. If it slides back here below 85.40, I think we will see the downtrend to resume. And finally, the dollar index, well, it is taking a little bit of a break here, but I think it will push higher towards 102.60 at least. There is a potential up to 103, but I think it would be a stretch, but it's not unlikely. We can see the 55 moving average here will drag on it a little bit. If it moves back and closes back below 101.86, the downtrend is likely to resume. Gold correction unfolding. We talked about it. If it took out that level there at 26.24, and it did yesterday, and pushed almost all the way down to 2600, where there's some support, and 61.8 retracement also. It is, I think also it's a little bit of a psychological level, but we have this rising trend line here. These trend lines, rising trend line, they're not the strongest one, so they can be penetrated, and I wouldn't be surprised if we spike below 2600. We could see it down to 786 retracement at 2576, but then I think it's also it's done, and I think we will resume our trend. There's no divergence on the RSI. We are still in a positive sentiment, indicating we are likely to see higher levels on gold in coming weeks. However, if it drops back below 25.46, then I think we will see maybe that being cancelled, and we can see lower levels on gold. But for now, I think it will bounce off around 2600. On the silver spot here, larger correction, maybe front running the gold a little bit. So it took out 30 spot 80 and spiked down to the 30 level. I think it just touched it. Very close to. There's still downside risk to around 29.70. I think we could see that, and then I think we will see it turning around. If it moves back above $31, well, then I think the uptrend is likely to resume. And finally, on the copper, when we are talking metals, also correction unfolding, and the it spiked down to 50% of this uptrend here, just above 441.5. It is not unlikely that we could see a dip down to the 61.8 retracement at 432.70. I think it could be seen. I would be surprised if this correction is already over, but we have the 55 and 200 coming up here, so I think that will be it if it moves down there, and then we will start pushing back towards previous highs, previous peak here around 468, 470. Crude oil collapsed yesterday massively here. The WTI actually forming a bearish engulfing, taking out the previous day's massive move there after spiking higher just above the 200 moving average. If it moves back below and closes back below 72.40, then I think downtrend will resume, but we still have the RSI showing positive sentiment. So it is a little bit up in the air. If it takes out this level up here again, 77.60, then I think we could see a push up to 80, 60 level, possibly higher. So really interesting days and extremely volatile. So it's really about having the stops closed. The Brent just below 81.58, could get all the way up there, but if it does, well, then I think we'll see it pushing higher towards 85 and 87, but there's a risk now that we could see it dropping below 75.5 again, and if it does, well, then a downtrend likely resuming, and the RSI will then be forgotten about. US 10-year Treasury yields hovering around 4%. I think we will see a correction here kicking in the next couple of days. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, so I think we could see higher levels, but a correction down to 391 could be seen, where we have some support in 382 retracement. If it takes out that, well, then it could slide a little bit lower, but we are in a bullish trend on the very short term at least. The same with the 2-year Treasury yield. I think we will see a correction after reaching the 786 retracement of this downtrend here. I think we will see a correction down to around 379. We can also see that the 55 moving average dragging on it a little bit, but positive sentiment on the RSI is indicating we could see the 2-year after a correction pushing possibly above 4%, maybe up to 405, 406 here in the where we have some strong resistance. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day. Talk to you later.